Okay, but as a first little warm-up exercise, because this is the last module we have together, it's been a great group, and we've done a lot. I just wanted you to have a and this is yeah, make sure you're on mute. We get a little bit of feedback there.
Oh,
somebody muted me.
that might have been me. Sorry, kid.
That's okay. Right. What I'm going to ask you to do is just have a little think about what you have, what you've taken away from the course, like in terms of a particular thing you thought about, something you liked, maybe something you want more information on, just one particular takeaway from the course. Have a think about it yourself. I'll give you a minute. And then I just want you to write it into the chat in a, short, succinct way. A little bit of a way for us to think, okay, what have we covered in the course? So some key takeaways, I suppose, and then jot it into the chat. And of course, I'll give out a few prizes if you happen to match up with a few that I put, which are not the key takeaway messages. They're just random ones that, as I flipped through the different slides, I thought, oh, okay, that's a particular point. So I'll give you a minute on that, and then we'll have a look at what we've covered. Lots of good points coming in. This is good. Okay. Well, I've been reading through them as they come in, and it's just makes me very happy to see all these particular points that people are making, because there's really important aspects. I like the fact that a lot of people have resonated with the idea of considering the safety of all road users. So that's wonderful. We've had some people really pointing out that this is not a check against standards. Standards are an interesting and important part of our design and development, but our role is to be sort of beyond that and look just genuinely at safety issues. And people into some specific stuff with swept paths. Some injury management stuff. So thinking also about the outcomes. I like that. Pedestrian safety stuff. Motorcycle safety popped up a couple of times. So people sort of pointing out some of that safe system categorization stuff, which is a always a bit of a challenge. It's a fairly new thing, but wonderful lineup there. I had a few just that I'd put in, which it might be quite. Hang on, I'm trying to share my screen now. What am I doing? Sorry, bear with me a second. Okay, I had a few, not the most important necessarily, but a few that I'd put up. Proactive. Proactive. The black spot's the reactive one. Dynamic visual obstruction, we talked about a lot in module 1. Bicycle-friendly grates, that was a very specific one, wasn't it? But pedestrian design lines, sharrows, severity of injury, safe system tolerance. Now, Marissa, I think I'm going to give you the wonderful job of deciding if any of people's comments are close, sort of somewhat aligned with that, and give them a prize. I think, yeah.
Leave it with me.
Okay.
Got a task for me.
But that's good. This session is about road safety audit, sort of accreditation, a little bit of stuff on legal liability. But before we jump into that, I want to actually do a little bit of an exercise with this group. We want to do 2 things. One is, if anybody has any specific questions about their the audit that they are currently undertaking, I want you to either, well, for this one, you can just speak to us, or feel free to write it in the chat still as well. I want to be able to cover off any questions. I think there'll be learning for others. If you've got a question, others would like to know that. Then what we're going to do is send you into breakout rooms with a design, and you're going to have a little bit of a chat and practice identifying issues and then coming up with findings. So I'll explain that shortly, but I will start and pause and see if anybody wants to ask a question about the audit that they are currently doing. And I've been letting a few other people in from the waiting room, so. Okay, everybody must be happy with their auditing, or they just want to get into a little bit of an exercise. And this will be a good opportunity to meet a few people, because we're randomly going to put you into little breakout rooms, but I better explain what needs to be done first. So I'll share my screen again, and your group is going to need to access the learning management system if you haven't already. And you're going to need to go to module 5, which is the one we're currently in today. And we're going to go to this folder, group exercises. And then there are 2 things there. One is, if we look here, it's this presentation, which has a bit of a design there. You can see the design. I'll talk you through this shortly. And the other, well, sorry, that's the lead in from here. And that one's the connection on this part of it. Sorry, just in case you're trying to work out where we are. So, but, connection to sheet 15's there, that connection. So that one connects to there. And then this one is back over there. Now, this is the existing site. So, a bit of a mock exercise. You can't do audits from Street View and these sorts of things, but for the purposes of a bit of training, we're not going to get you to go to the site for this one. But we've got you an aerial image of the existing site, and these are actually little. These are actually little 360-degree camera. Get some feedback. Is that from you? Yeah. No, I think that's it. Yep. For some reason, I think your computer's feeding my voice back to me. If you click on one of these, what it actually does is it brings up a bit of 360-degree footage from that site.
Diana saved 150.
After an ad for some insurance company, no doubt. So what you can do then is you'll be able to have a little bit of look at the existing conditions of the site. You can just drag around the screen. Hopefully you're seeing that, Marissa, are you? Yep. So you can see a bit of what's existing there. It's an existing roundabout. You can see it operating. You can drag around. You can look up in the air if you want. So you can see that. So that'll give you a little bit of idea of the site. And you can pick anywhere you want in the existing site and dive in and have a look at it. So for example, here, there's a bit of a pedestrian crossing. Let's go jump in and have a look at that. Are we going to get another ad? No, we're not. Great. Okay, there's a bit of a pedestrian crossing there. You go, oh, okay, I see. There you go. It's pedestrian crossing. It's got a bit of a Danish offset to it. Wrong way around, but that's all right. Probably not a major safety issue. But that's an existing issue. Will that be there in the future? Who knows? But you can see, okay, there's shops over here. There's a bakery. Yeah, that's interesting. What do we got on the other side here? Okay, we've got some more shops. Now we've got a bus stop over there. There's that roundabout. So you can get a bit of a feel for the existing site. But remember, we're not doing an audit of the existing conditions. We're doing an audit for when they change it to a set of traffic signals. And you can see the design here of the changes to make it a set of traffic signals. And so you can see there, the greenish lines are the existing conditions. That's a roundabout there. The black lines on top of it, that is what they're going to build, okay? So that's what you're auditing. Okay, you say, okay, there's the median strip there. Okay, there's going to be 1, 2, 3 through lanes, 2 right turn lanes down here. The shops were down here, okay? And that's going to go through as the bus stop there. And yeah, some through lanes, turn lanes. So what we're going to do is throw you into groups and you're going to look at this. And I want you to pick one issue that you can find as a group. And then I want it to be fleshed out the way we've been doing. So we want you to, write it up. Well, it doesn't need to be formally written up, but when we come back as a group, one person from each of the breakout rooms will present back their findings. So they'll say, okay, the issue we found was, actually, I don't want to say an issue because it'll give you one too easily, but let me think of something. Oh, sorry, I should have said the red is just services. That's saying that there's a service running along there. I'll give you one that you wouldn't say because you've got no idea about it, but you might say the audit team is concerned with the lack of street lighting at the intersection. This increases the chance of crashes involving pedestrians, also involving intersection crashes. This is more of a risk at night and during low light conditions. It doesn't conform with the V3 lighting required at major intersections. And then you would risk rate it, and then you would provide recommendations and categorize those. So that's an example. But obviously you don't have any information about the lighting, and that would be a weird thing for you to do as a group, but you will be able to find things. Now I'm going to jump into each of these breakout rooms as we go, but I do want to make sure that somebody in the great breakout room has downloaded that so you can have a look at that design. Now there is a template there, which I don't you're welcome to use it. Sorry, it's just opening up on my other screen. I'll drag it over when it opens. Just giving you the instructions, which I've just told you. There's the risk matrix, which you'll be debating as a little group, no doubt, saying, oh, what do you think? It's minor, it's unlikely, whatever it is. but then we want you to be able to just talk us through this. So we don't need to see a snip of the point. I'll have the design up, and we'll be able to talk through it. So does anybody have any questions on the task we're about to give you? Now, you're going to have about 15 minutes as a group, and that's, well, at least 15 minutes. It might be 20 minutes even, because we want you to say hi to each other, first of all, because you haven't probably met some of these people. Then make sure somebody's sharing their screen with the design. Then think about, well, is somebody going to take notes here, and who's going to talk this back? And then work through, find an issue. Just go with one and then flesh it out properly. Any questions? Okay.
I think everyone's set.
Here we go. I'm going to create breakout rooms, and I'm going to do 5 breakout rooms. Marissa, do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, go for it.
Assign automatically. And I'm not going to include code.
Don't include me. Unless one of you want me in your group, then.
So it's going to be about 6 people in your group, and you're randomly chosen. So meet somebody new. I'll pop in, allow 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll give you a bit of warning, and I'll pop in, and if you've got questions.
We'll give you a 5-minute warning towards the end, and then a 1 minute when it's about to close off.
So make sure when you get in there, you turn your camera on and you say hi, and off you go. All right. See you in 15, 20 minutes.
Fun.
Here we go. Opening room. Okay. Hopefully that works.
Yeah.
We've got a few people still.
A few more. Yeah. A couple more. Hi, Natasha, if you're there.
Safe Systems crew wanting to stick around.
That's right. Okay, let's go. I'll pause the
I'm going to say, Marissa, let's get that recording just so, because I think it's always a good bit of learning from this. Now, I did get a good question that came in there as to, have we fabricated this design, or have we planted things in there? No, this is an absolute legitimate design that was done, reasonably early stage for the the change from a roundabout to signals, and we didn't fabricate anything in there. But I don't think it took many of you long to find some issues. But that's the nature of these sort of, what I'd say, what we call brownfield sites, which are brownfield, meaning there's existing road and you're altering it. There's always challenges out there, and things, appear. So let's have a chat about it. And so I'm going to start with room 1, which was Bruce Strong and Matt Johnson were in there. Did somebody want to talk? You get the easy job because you got the first pick of the issues. Did that group forget to pick somebody to be their speaker? You're on mute, Marissa.
So we've just said Shane Mills is going to speak. You have to unmute me. Okay, yep. Well, Shane Mills.
Have we got people unmuted? Right. Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah. That's okay. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, got you loud and clear, Shane. Ready to go.
Cool.
I
We'll
can
group
move
one.
the slides around to the other ones if you want.
Yeah, no worries. So we were looking further south on Mount Dandenong Road. If you were, I think it's on the next page.
This one? Oh, sorry. Have I shared the wrong screen? Which screen are you seeing?
I got the intersection there.
Ah, all right. Let me share my other screen. I think I may have
Do you
shared.
want me to share it?
Maybe. Hang on. Let me see if that works. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, I can't see anything now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you seeing anything, Marissa?
Yeah, I can see your screen. Mark Thompson saying he can see it too.
Okay, must just be my internet.
Might
So the risk we were flagging was for the arrangement as you're heading sort of southeast. There's the two lanes are merging into one, and then there's, so on the slow lane is pushed as for the through lane, and there's an immediate right turn lane develops, and then straight after that arrangement, there's another merge, which if you wanted to go straight through, you have to then merge back to the right of the page. Otherwise, you're sort of forced into a right or a left if you're not merging correctly. So we saw the risk of side swiping and people not merging correctly. That's a fairly high volume road, and there's getting clarity on those movements through those areas. So we put the possibility as it's quite possible there's going to be a few collisions there, and those collisions could be of a severity that's quite moderate to it. So that puts us at a high risk. And our recommendations, which is more supporting, is that placing or installation of a curb over the flush median. If there was an incident there as well, the likelihood that it's going to push over into the northwest bound, creating a higher severity again, but needing to make it like needing to make the section through there quite clear on where the mergers are, or making that last left turn straight through if possible.
Okay. With those treatments, any idea primary supporting?
I think they're mostly supporting, because we unless because we can't really remove the risk that the side road there was it, I think it was, I can't see the name now, Devenish Avenue, that looks like it's the only access into that area, into that zone, for anyone that was heading sort of southeast.
So
yep.
What is the particular crash that you're concerned about in that finding?
I think it'd be like people not failing to merge, so it's side swipes or rear ends. People are stopping at different points to make those different turns and merging briefly before. So you kind of have people focusing on the merge, and then there could be someone stopped if they fail to merge ahead of them, or like any sort of back event queuing.
Yep. Now that's great, and I think because you've come up with a really good finding, as in you've identified an area that's awkward in this design. It's weird. It's like they're here, and then they'd have to go out here, and then they come back here. It's a very awkward setup, and it's going to cause issues. And I think, like, when you write up your audit finding following that formula, the clarity around what's the crash you're interested in, because you've got like lots of possible things in that. There's the intersection type crashes that you could be thinking about. There's like the turn crashes. But yeah, I think you clarified it really well, that you're focusing in on all this merging and moving that's required and weaving, and there's a side swipe and rear end issue. Fantastic. Well done. Good spotting. Well articulated. I think reasonable discussion there around some recommendations. You can do sort of bigger recommendations as well, talking about, creating that, continuous through lane, and if they require a dedicated left turn to create that, that's bigger civil works, but they may be able to do that. It looks like a massive project. That may be possibilities. but you've done that nicely. You categorized it well in terms of supporting. I mean, this is always a hard one because they're likely to be, as you rightly pointed out, they're not going to be the higher severity type crashes because they're side swaps and rear ends from vehicles. But primary would have to be like, it's kind of very hard. I mean, without like physical separation between lanes or something, you're not going to eliminate that risk of side swipe style crashes. Well done, team. There we go. Great start to it. Let's jump ourselves to room 2. Room 2 had David Young and Lachlan Thompson and co. Now, I'm not sure, Marissa, if you need to unmute somebody. Pop your hand up if you want to speak or type it into the chat.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the ability to talk to us, hopefully.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I've got a few people I've got to admit if might have popped out. Has anyone got their hand up? No.
We may have to come back to that group if didn't have anybody.
No one from group 2.
Well, let's jump to group 3. We'll come back to group 2. So group 3 was had Jacob, Chris Pham, Don.
We've got Lachlan on group 2.
Oh, Lachlan.
Great, Lachlan.
Okay, we're going back.
Thank you. I'll unmute you.
Sorry, I just got booted out and got stuck in the cold outside.
That's okay.
Yes, we had to kick you out for a while. No. Go, Lachlan. What did your group discuss?
So what we discussed is a bus stop on Montrose Road to the north of the intersection on the slide you're on, Ken.
This one here?
No, sorry, on the north. Yeah, that one there.
Yep.
So our concerns around the proposed new bus stop were, there's a couple of things. One, there's no cycling provision past that bus stop. So if the bus were to stop there, any cyclists are just going to be forced off into the 3.3 metre lane with any other traffic that's coming north on that approach. Also, there's a fair amount of vegetation on that corner. So any vehicles turning left from a eastbound direction may have restricted sight line to the back of the stopped bus. Likewise, any vehicles turning right in a westbound direction are likely to get forced up into the back of a little bit of a traffic jam there. So we actually rated that as quite a high, especially for the cyclists. We thought it was a likely and a serious because any incident between a car, which is likely going to be going more than 30 at that point, and a cyclist is probably going to result in hospitalisation. We came up with a couple of secondary treatments. One was to move the bus stop further north away from the intersection to allow greater sight lines, or another was to create a dedicated bus pull-off bay so that it's actually out of the running lanes at that point.
Very good. Okay. Well, you've picked out a good issue and I think, articulated it really nicely in the sense that it is close to this and they're building this island and it's going to restrict everything up. And you're absolutely right. A cyclist is not going to have a great time with that when the bus stops and how that all plays out. I don't think vehicles are going to have the best time of it. And yeah, I like the fact that you've identified, some contributing risk factors there of the vegetation, which you've obviously seen from the video footage, and those are the kind of things you pick up on site as well. This sort of sweeping curve. So really nicely articulated. I like the fact that, your treatments that you've proposed, you recognize they're supporting treatments. And they're not sort of eliminating the possibility of a cyclist being struck in this area or into the back of the bus, but you're significantly reducing the chance of that by moving it up. So that's a really good finding. I liked your other ones there. And no doubt if you had lots more time on it, you'd be able to look into some of the standards and guidelines around buses and decide whether you've got something there to, you can also refer to. But really good finding. Well done. So we've got 2 different findings. Thank you, Lachlan. And we won't kick you out again, I promise.
Thanks. Cold out there.
Okay, so let's
Thanks,
go to room
Michael.
3, which,
Yeah,
as I was saying,
well,
was Chris, Sam, Don,
We've
Jacob.
got,
Josh.
yeah, we've got Jacob Beats, who has nominated himself.
Hello, Jacob. Can you hear us?
Thanks, Marissa. Hi, Ken. Just I'm going to try and share my screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. You can share yours.
So let me know when you can see it.
I'll stop sharing mine then.
So,
yep. Oh, gee, look at it. Here it is. Yep.
Group 3 is actually identified that within the median islands, there's no actual tactiles or directional tactiles. So that would be the issue. The crash severity would be for any visually impaired pedestrians. It would most likely be very likely and a very serious or fatal accident should it occur. Within the standards and guidelines, it also it's a definite requirement, but some jurisdictions would only request for parameter tactiles and directional tactiles to be an option. But in fact, Silicon Island has actually got an access inclusion group where it doesn't matter if, for instance, where you've got even a one directional traffic lane, they require directional tactiles.
Okay. Good. Right. Well done. So you've identified your issue, and this is an interesting one. You've honed in on lack of tactile ground surface indicators and the challenges that might pose to visually impaired pedestrians. Very important part. And you've nicely described the crash, which is pedestrian being struck. I think in terms of the severity of incidents, I think you're very much in that severe range, as you've rightly pointed out, knowing the biomechanical tolerances of there, and then your recommendations, I think, are good. Yep, and that's a supporting treatment like the installation, because we still have a risk to pedestrians that we've lessened the chance of a visually impaired pedestrian being struck, but it's still sort of possible if they miss things. We haven't lessened the severity of it. I suppose the one thing for me is I think the likelihood of this is quite a bit higher than industry would actually rate this. And the reason I say that, you might remember back to module 1 where I sort of talked through that process of back risk rating it, or imagining, okay, they build this, they don't put any tactiles in, and in 5 years we come there and at a likely to rate that likely, we are saying that once every quarter to once every year, a pedestrian is seriously injured, a visually impaired pedestrian is seriously injured because there were no tactiles there. Now, I think that's probably just a bit, it's quite a bit higher, I think, that industry would rate that, just for the fact that we know that, that there's 150 serious injury pedestrian crashes a year across all of Victoria, where this one is, and so that that particular issue. But so what I actually do a lot of the time in auditing, and where I identify these sort of missing tactiles and those sort of things, they often for me are a 2-note. So I don't even risk rate them, because I can't hand on heart say if they don't put a tactile there, somebody's going to be killed or seriously injured in the next 50 years. I agree it's wrong and they should be there, but to genuinely say that's our source of trauma, I think but apart from that, I think you've done really well. The only other thing I suppose the only other reason I often don't risk rate it at this sort of level, in terms of the designs, are fairly early on, and I suspect they will put tactiles in that at the more the detailed design stage. So I'm kind of just flagging to them at the moment, make sure you do put tactiles in. But you're within your right to put it in as a finding in its own right, as a risk rating, if you believe that, and they will probably just write, yep, we'll put tactiles in at detailed design stage. But great finding, well done, well articulated, and yeah, got that severity nicely. And as I said, maybe down your likelihood if you're going to put it as a risk. Well done. Let's jump to group 4. I think that was so. Ashen, Chase, Karen, Mikkel, Kel, Ryan.
Anyone? I'm up for 4. Okay, Michael. Great. I'll just unmute you.
Thank you.
Right. Do you want me to share my screen? I'll share my screen again if you want.
Yes, please. Yep, we were looking at the first image.
The intersection itself.
Yep, that's the one there. So the interaction we were looking at was vehicles using the slip lane coming south out of Montrose Street, Montrose Road, and turning left onto Canterbury Road. And we were worried that the bus stop there was close to that movement. And so we were worried about a vehicle coming out and focusing on the traffic coming from the west, so they'd be looking right, and then coming out when they see a gap and not checking left to see that there's a bus stop there. And so the interaction would either be a rear end into the bus or swerving into the second lane and then getting a side swipe with through traffic at 70 k's an hour, which would be the more severe crash. We rated it as likely and then either serious or fatal, which came out to extreme risk. And we thought that the high volume of traffic through the intersection or potentially night conditions or wet weather might increase the likelihood of that occurring. In terms of treatment, we thought a primary treatment could be moving the bus stop further away from the intersection. If it's possible to move it behind the extended curb there in that area, if it's possible, that would be primary treatment because there would be the curb blocking the way. Otherwise, we could indent the bus stop there, which might reduce the likelihood, but could create some interactions issues with the bus coming in and out still.
Great. Well done. So I mean, really well explained in terms of the issue. And contributing risk factors. I liked the way you did that. You focused it in on that particular point, which I like. It's yeah, that was well explained. I think your risk rating, I think was probably a little higher than industry would have rated that risk. Again, just as I talked with Jacob through thinking back, if we come back here in 5 years' time, are we going to see 5 fatal or serious injuries associated with that particular interaction? I don't think that's the case. I can't say it's wrong, but we sort of, that's a good little test for you to think about your risk rating, is to imagine coming back. But nonetheless, it's really well explained. There is a risk there. I think it was good. I think your treatments are really good. Again, it gets a little bit tricky in primary or supporting. I like the way you clearly put that as a primary. And I kind of feel that particular hitting bus issue, yes, if you're able to completely separate it out like that, you're in a better position. And I really also like the fact that you added in some of the potential risks associated with some of your proposals and acknowledging that, this will alleviate this, but has some risks that come along with it. So putting that and being transparent with that. Great job. Well done. Thank you. Let's jump to our final group, who we had Alfred, Elliot, and Lara, Nick.
Yeah. Lauro, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I'll unmute you.
Laro.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Are we getting that right, Lara?
Yeah, Laro, both are acceptable.
Okay.
So the risk that our group picked up is the furthest left lane on Canterbury Road heading to Lilydale.
heading to Lilydale.
Lilydale, yep.
Yep.
So on the eastern side of the intersection, there's a service road there.
This one?
Yep.
Yep.
So our risk was that it's a narrowing, almost trap lane without sufficient signage and line marking to inform drivers that people may be heading into the service road or merging right. So there's confusion there that's going to lead to a higher possibility of sideswipe or rear end. Again, if someone's slowing down to head into the service road, someone behind them may be speeding up to merge right, and you get that confusion of interaction there. There's none of those diagonal arrows either saying that this can merge right, and there's doesn't seem to be any signage saying that this is an access to the service road. We thought that this is possible and moderate on the risk rating, so it's a high risk. Some of the primary actions we thought, recommendations, sorry, was continue a 3-lane through road and reduce the width of the service road, just so there's no, they're free to use both options without causing a risk. One was close off the service road and make it just a merge right, so that they could access the service road from the other side with some sort of turnaround within the service road, because there is a left turn just a little bit further east of that as well. And a supporting better signage and line marking just to inform people of what is in the area, which still lessens the confusion, but the confusion may still happen.
Okay. Wow, this is good, because we've picked up distinct issues here. They're not, we haven't overlapped. I think that is a really good pickup. Again, like the first group, you've kind of picked up this awkward arrangement where they've trying to squeeze in a merge point, plus there's the opening and the entry, and it's going to be a bit messy. And I really liked in your in articulating the finding, you've talked about the crashes, the side swipes, the rear end there, and so you've nicely done that. You've risk rated, and I think it's reasonable risk rating. I'm fairly comfortable with that. That's generally about what industry would rate that risk. The side swipes and rear ends being a less severe. It's certainly a point where things like this are going to happen. And then in terms of your recommendations, good recommendations, and you've given them a couple of things to think about. Again, like primary is always hard in these side swipe sort of scenarios, because I think even closing off the entry there is not really a primary, because you're thinking about, have we eliminated the side swipe possibility? And you haven't. I mean, and you really can't. So these sort of things are where you end up not having a primary treatment, and that's fine. You don't need primary treatments in your recommendations. You just had a list of supporting ones, which are all really valid things to be looking at and try to address, because side swipes can still happen. They're still going to be merging there, even with the one that goes sort of through. The side swipe is still a possibility, just of people drifting out of their lane and the like. So this is where it's hard to sort of separate out. You've got the issue that you are focused on, but when you're thinking about, is it primary and supporting what our treatment is, you're just thinking about the crash type. Can that crash type still occur? Has that been alleviated? And you sort of separate out the issue a little bit. There was one of the quizzes really directly on this primary supporting to try to help calibrate people's thinking on that. I'll point you at a little bit of more reading for this, but it's usually one people take a little bit of time to get their head around. You had some really good ones, like identifying that signs and lines are always supporting treatment, absolutely. But yeah, just keep working on that. But really good finding again. So well done. Marissa, excellent group. Anybody who was the speakers, if you can remember who that was, chuck a prize in for them as well. They've done well. They stepped up for their team and did the talking. But I did really like the fact that everybody was getting involved in those discussions when I jumped into the rooms and having their say. So thanks everybody for getting involved. Happy for anybody to type into the chat if they had other particular comments around this design. I might just talk to a couple of little things that I find interesting in this design, which I say is was absolutely not fabricated. It was something that was audited by our team at one point, and you know, changes happen along the way. But I really think great spotting around those mergers. The positioning of bus stops in this one is going to be interesting and challenging. The skew of this intersection, that's immediately, if you see a skewed intersection like that, you know you're going to have challenges. And one is, you know, this slip lane here has got, you know, particular interest to me. And the angle is bad. The angle won't meet sort of what Austroads sort of requires there. It's too far to be turning the head, but it's also going to be high speed entries out of that. And then, yeah, you've got your complication, your bus stop and all of that. You've nicely sort of jumped into the detail of these designs, and you've all picked out fairly sort of specific detailed stuff, which is good. There are sort of these bigger picture risks, which we do want you to also be including. And it's much easier when you go to the site and you'll see it and you'll imagine it. But certainly on this one, we've got, you know, a whole lot of, there's a pedestrian crossing here that's been removed. We've got bus stops, we've got shops, we've got all these things here. And now we're going to ask all of these pedestrians to walk down to a crossing point and back up to their bus stop and their access points. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to have all of these pedestrian movements across here, which, you know, were covered by, or they had a signalized crossing before, which has been pushed down the road. So thinking about those sorts of issues, thinking about the crashes that can happen here where we've got a high speed. So currently vehicles coming in here are a roundabout to navigate. They're going to slow down, right? We're going to have less severe crashes. When it becomes signalized, they're going to come through here. Most of them are going to stop, but we know that occasionally we get people who don't. So we've got a high speed signalized intersection here. Now people sometimes would think, oh, well, that's going to be very safe. Well, it won't be. There'll be people who run red lights. There'll be death and serious injuries. So that's a big picture sort of, you know, is signalizing this the right thing to do in its current form? Now, we as auditors aren't going to say, well, we can at early stages sort of question that, but then we might talk about features to slow vehicles going through the signalized intersection here, whether that's a raised safety platform, whether it's speed changes, whether speed limit changes, whether it's you know, cameras or the like. Then there's lots of other little issues around there. I won't go into them, but plenty to work with, and that's the real world. That's what we see designs coming in, and you'll be auditing those, and there's usually plenty to find. So we're doing really well here. I'm going to give you a short stretch break and fill up a coffee break, and then I'm just going to do some final bits and pieces around accreditation as road safety auditors, some legal liability stuff, answer any final questions that you have, either about the assignment you need to do to finish off the course, or about anything associated with road safety auditing processes and practices around Australia or around the world. And Marissa will show you how to finish off the course in the learning management system and get your official certificate and the like. So let's take 3 minutes and have a stretch, and we'll get back into it. Okay, we'll get back into it shortly. A couple of questions have popped in. Now, how many issues were identified during this finding, Marissa? Can you mute again? I'm hearing myself. How many issues were identified? I think there was about 15 issues in that audit from memory, and then a handful of to notes as well. So these were more just notes to the designer in terms of things to think about in the future progress of the design, which are things like the tactiles and positioning of, you know, lighting, where they might have problems. So more just a few sort of, ideas and future considerations, which aren't direct findings. They were just noted. So where you draw the line is an interesting one, because when you get out to a site like that and they're doing something like that, you can find just hundreds and hundreds of things like, okay, the existing footpath has a little bit of, a lip on it, which could be a trip hazard. Are we going to report that? I tend to not report those sorts of little, very minor things and try to stick to some of those big design issues that we believe are significant. But it's a little bit of sort of judgment required on that and your decision. And yeah, I don't want, for me, for a design like that, I don't want to be putting forward 150 findings, of which 140 of them are very minor things that really are not going to make any difference in terms of death or serious injury, because it kind of overshadows the important ones. So the other question, some ideas on how to improve the design, which is good. A question around assignment marking, which I see Marissa has answered in terms of, it's up about a week is what we generally allow after. If you submit your assignment on time and it goes into the pool, we have some senior auditors that try to jump onto those and get them done within that week. So there's a question in there around, well, for the assignment, you've been given a design. What about issues you find out there in the existing conditions? Well, the answer to that is you only report those if they are not going to be altered by that design. So if there's an existing issue, it's within the scope of the work and it's going to remain as an existing issue, you're able to report that. But if the configuration all has been changed as a result of the design, then that issue has been rectified, you don't report it. So if you are going to report something you've seen out there, I don't know, maybe you say there's a trap lane and the design is not going to address the trap lane, so the trap lane remains an issue in this design, you can report that. Hopefully that makes sense. But you're trying to imagine it all in the future and then identify issues and problems. Okay, so keep those questions coming in. That's good. That's the purpose of today. Oh, it looks like we've got a hand raised. So let's go.
Thanks again. Thanks, Marissa. Again, sorry, I didn't want to start this taking a lot of time. In regards to becoming a senior road safety auditor, the requirements is to be a minimum 5 years experience in road design and to have completed 5 audits within the financial year, I assume. What's the case if you are not, you're pretty much just started your road safety audit, but you've already done, say, 7 years experience in road design? Do you then automatically qualify as a senior road designer? I don't think so.
So I'm going to take you through that with a few slides shortly. And yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think others will have similar questions around, oh, hang on, what does that exactly mean? So let me run through it. And then at the end, if you still got questions, jump in. By the way, what are we seeing in your background there? Which town, which city is that? Oh, if we unmuted you.
It's City Darwin.
Oh, that's Darwin. Oh, yes. Lovely. There you go. Okay. Let me address this and oh, that's not what I wanted to share. Sorry. Bear with me. Sorry, everybody. I've still got the design up with my scribbles on it, which okay, here we go. So I want to talk about that accreditation. I want to talk about, accreditation around Australia, and also legal liability associated with auditing. I'll add New South Wales into this list as well, because this course has been accepted by the New South Wales government as well, which was just a bit more recent. It was about a year ago at least now. So a few things to cover. Requirements in different jurisdictions for that road safety auditor accreditation, or senior auditor, as Jacob was talking about there. And legal liability. I'll start with legal liability just to cover off a few things. And I've sort of put a little disclaimer here because I'm not a lawyer. I have been involved in quite a number of legal cases associated with road safety auditing in one form or another, or coroners investigations during time in government and the like. So I've got a feeling of what sort of happened around this space, and do talk to the legal fraternity, but I'm not giving you legal advice here. But as an auditor, which you're going to be soon, once you finish that assignment and get that pass mark, finish all your quizzes, you'll get the certificate, and it sort of gives you the ability then to register yourself in different government, under different government schemes as an auditor, and in some jurisdictions, the certificate itself is enough to go out and say you're an auditor. That's New Zealand basically. If you duck over to New Zealand, you can simply use the certificate here. They don't have a register of auditors or anything like that, as opposed to what we do in Australia, which I'll show you after I talk about these legal liability things. But you're going to, be an auditor. You're going to be able to call yourself a road safety auditor. And some of the concerns that exist in terms of legal liability for auditors themselves are, one is this, what is generally termed a client-focused audit, where there is some sort of altering of the outcomes to please the client, or make their so let me give you an example. Some new big hardware chain enters into the Australian market, and they're building all these massive hardware store warehouse things, and they're having to create all these accesses onto arterial roads, and they are required by the road authorities to do road safety audits as part of this, and you're engaged as the auditor, and you and your team sort of there, but they say, we've got, don't find anything that's going to cost us any money, and we've got a lot of these coming, and you'll have a lot of work to keep you busy. Of course, if you entertain any of that sort of interaction, we know that there's possible legal ramifications. I did a review of like 200 audits from different consultancies and different individuals out there, as part of teams at one point, and I couldn't put my finger on anything in that space. I saw some pretty average audits, but I put it down to inexperience and maybe not, so having enough experience and knowledge around auditing, but not something I couldn't put my finger on anything. But it's always a concern people have. Inadequate brief. Well, you're not writing the brief for yourself, but you are collecting a brief and being asked what to do. If you don't have the information you need to be able to do the audit, you ask for that information. Now they may still not provide it to you, and you're able to continue on making assumptions and just noting that. But, like take the one that we just did as a very mock exercise. If you were not given swept path diagrams, for example, or the phasing, the phasing for that was, you couldn't have done that without the phasing. They had overlapping turns. You would note that. You say the auditors were provided this information. We asked for swept path diagrams and phasing of the signals. We weren't provided with those. These are the assumptions we've made. I like to make worst case assumptions just in case. Like I I'd hate to make the assumption that they're going to do fully controlled turns or split phase in that one, and for some reason they weren't, but your audit, didn't pick that up. So I kind of go worst case, because they can easily just write, yep, agree, we're going to do split phase. So misleading qualifications or experience, of course, that's something that across any industry you're going to have potential legal liability issues if you mislead in any of that. And there is existing registers of road safety auditors and senior auditors. So of course you can't call yourself an accredited senior auditor under a different scheme if you're not. They're not following the correct process and putting their day, night, visiting the site, and following your own quality processes, which is, sort of part and parcel of that. But, daytime, nighttime, and visiting the site, if your client has specified otherwise, technically, it's on them from a legal liability issue. You would be sort of questioned, were you doing a reasonable job of this audit? And you'd have to sort of debate that. It's their call. They're purchasing something from you. But if they were to say, do an audit in accordance with Austroad's Guide to Road Safety Part 6, and you didn't go to the site, unless it was a feasibility early stage audit and agreement with the client, then you've sort of not meeting your obligations there. And then, in the end, in terms of like, did you pick up an issue or not that has caused a crash? It all comes down to that reasonable assessment, which is that they talk about a lot in courts and legal situations. And it's really, is it something that your peers would have picked up? Did you go through a process? Did you spend the appropriate amount of time on this? Those sorts of things would be factored into that. So that's, as an auditor, some possible things. If you are, purchasing a road safety audit, getting somebody to do a road safety audit for you, there are also legal implications. Inadequate brief. So if you're holding back vital information for the audit team to be able to do their job because you don't want something found, that could cause issues. Requesting recommendations, so specifically asking for things to be included or not included, that's not what the road authority or the customer should be doing. It should be that independent look. Then when you get that report, to do something with each of the findings. You don't need to action exactly what the auditor says, but you need to sort of note, okay, we accept that, or we reject that, or we're going to do that, but we can't do it now because we don't have the budget, but it'll be put into the future program or whatever it is. Some way of prioritizing what you've agreed on, and again, a reasonable process. So Chris has asked a question in there around audit shopping, which I suppose is going out to a group of auditors to find the one that you think will give you the best outcome that you want. There are some things in play to try to lessen that. One is the register of auditors. So they've got to be, registered. There is, under each scheme, this threat of the ability to take people off the audit register, either through a pre-qualification, if they company with the road authority or the individual. The reality is that doesn't play out. I've yet to see anybody be pulled off a road safety audit register in Australia. The threat is there, but I think the end of that can be the road authority or the end asset manager, whoever's going to be responsible for managing that new intersection or that new road. They have the ability, they are in control of the audits that happen. Even if it's developer funded works, the road authority or the end asset manager has the say, and they could specify select audit teams. Like they could pick 3 or for, or consultancies or whatever it is, and say, you know, the audits have to be done by one of these, and then you get that sort of mix of the ability to still get quotes, but it's been focused in on some known, you know, good auditors. And I certainly did that. I was planning manager in Vic Roads for a while, where I said I'm sick of these developers using, you know, auditors that I don't think are doing a great job of it. And so we just said, yeah, within the planning permit, that it must be from this group of 5. And that was fine. Anyway. Okay, so there's some of the legal liability challenges. Oh, Wally's appearing in these. That's good. Keep a note. I'm going to jump onto the accreditation, which we started talking about there, and it'll probably round out the course. But do pop any other questions you've got as I tick along. Now, I have put this sort of tried to consolidate a bit of a fact sheet, which we put in the learning management system. I've got Victoria, Queensland, South Australia on screen. We also got, you know, New South Wales and Western Australia and others in the one that's on screen. But most of them either have the level of road safety auditor or senior road safety auditor. New South Wales has level 1, 2, and 3, just to be a little bit different. But you are going to likely enter in as a road safety auditor. Unless you're doing this as a refresher course and you've got a whole bank of audits that you can use to demonstrate your experience. But if you haven't, you know, done an audit as a road safety auditor, then you're going to start in as a road safety auditor. And what they require, oh, actually, I've got this in the next slides, but I've got this sort of summary. You need to have experience in some of these areas. Then there might be a minimum number of years that you've got to have experience. And then you've got, that's professional experience. That's just generally as, you know, an engineer or a road technician or a behavioral person or the like. Then you've got your road safety audit experience that you need. And then you've got to do something to keep that accreditation status. So let me take you through. I'll show you the example. I think I'll start with Victoria and then I'll talk a little bit about the others. But you've got those 2 levels, road safety auditor, senior auditor. So to be a road safety auditor, you need to do this course or an equivalent recognized course by that jurisdiction. And you need some experience, this is Victoria, in road safety engineering, road design, traffic management, or road user behavior. Now, Victoria is certainly very lenient on this. In fact, you know, just having seen who all of you are, you're all going to meet that requirement. Okay. You got to get the certificate by successfully completing the course. And that's pretty much it to get yourself in as a road safety auditor. I say that, but for any Victorians, there is a short e-learning module test thing that you're going to have to do. That was introduced recently in Victoria, and it was just because there'd been people on this register for 20 years. They didn't understand safe system. They weren't doing audits in the way that you've been taught them. It was, you know, not as much thinking about safe system, the primary supporting stuff. So they said, you've got to do this e-learning. And we said to the Victorian government, well, anybody who's done the course recently shouldn't have to do that because they're, that's what they're getting taught in the course. And they said, no, we need that assurance that everybody's got that. And anyway, so you have to do it. It won't take you long. You'll get an email after this in the next sort of fortnight or something from Victorian government with an e-learning log on. But contact us if you've got any questions on that. But to graduate from a road safety auditor to a senior road safety auditor, you need to have done the course or equivalent. You need 5 years experience and you need to do 5 road safety audits with somebody who's on that register as a senior auditor. That's your sort of continuing mentoring, somebody to be part of this team, and they're talking you through. You continue to learn, and yeah, that's the ongoing learning from this to graduate up to that senior auditor status. So in Victoria, the way to do this, and I should say anybody is eligible to log themselves as an accredited road safety auditor for Victoria. So even if you're living in Darwin, you can log yourself for the Victorian one, which is vrsa.com.au. And so make a note of that email address, because this is where you'll probably be wanting to go. The first thing that comes up is this disclaimer. And the disclaimer says there's a big list of accredited road safety auditors here. We can't guarantee any are any good. We just guarantee they've met these specific requirements that have been set. And you go, okay, agree and continue. And then you get in there and you're faced with this page, and you can navigate it around yourself, but you're going to register for auditor accreditation. You're going to click on that, and then it'll say, do you want to register as a road safety auditor or as a senior road safety auditor? As I said, most of you, if not all of you, are going to be going for this one. Click that, start, and then you're given this information to fill out. You'll notice over here, you've got the option to hide any information from the public that you don't want put out there. But, name and organization and the like. So you go through and you fill all of that information out, and then you will go into essentially a pending until somebody just reviews that and then gives you the thumbs up, which usually doesn't take long. And you can email that email address if you want to at any time to check on it. So once you're on there, then you can log in and you can upload information. So I'll show you sort of what you see. Back in here, you can search for an auditor. And so let's search for an auditor. You can search by name, by organization. You can search by required expertise. Now, take this with a grain of salt, because it's when you go through that, filling out all the forms, it's self-populated. So, there's no specificness around it, but you could search if you wanted somebody to do existing conditions, motorcycle audits, click that and you see who's filters out. But as I say, take it with a grain of salt. Then you basically just get this big list of people, organization, email, phone number, and you can click on anybody in particular. This is some old snips I've got here, but let's click on me. There we go. So you'll see auditor details. You'll see active. So that'll be pending if they're just waiting for somebody to check it. Senior road safety auditor, some contact details, scroll down a bit. Relevant professional experience. So you're able to put a bit of information about what you've done in the past, and you can hide all of that. They need that just to make sure you're, in industry, or you've been doing things for 5 years if you're going for senior auditor status. Expertise. Done a lot of audits in my time, but I still didn't put any of the worksite traffic management plans in there. Regions available to perform audits. That was more just if somebody only wanted to work in the east of the state. And then all you see in terms of historical audits is the location of the audit. So this was Phillip Island. I was the senior auditor and team leader. And yes, in 2015, I was doing it 4 Vic roads, and it was a stage 1 bicycle. So from memory, that was the feasibility design of a shared path or shared path from Anderson to San Remo, for those who know the area. That's built now. So that's all you see. And in fact, behind the scenes, you don't actually upload the actual audit reports from these. You just upload some contact details of the client. And if they want to audit the auditors at any point, they'll follow those up. Copy your certificate from this course is in there. And yeah, so everything's in that VRSA, vrsa.com.au. Take note of that and you'll go there. So I spent some time there on the Victorian one because that's probably one of the easiest ones to get onto. And a lot of people from other jurisdictions use that. And so Tasmania uses the Victorian one. The Northern Territory says we'll take anybody's. Just if you're on a register, that'll do. Western Australia has a completely different scheme. They're just doing things completely differently. The South Australian government have their register, and theirs is also fairly easy because it's simply a copy of a successful completion of a training course, but they only put online and publish the senior auditors. So you kind of need to get that 5 years experience and 5 road safety audits done. Queensland has a similar system to Victoria, but in order to get that road safety auditor accreditation, just the auditor, you need 5 years experience. So that's a challenge for graduates and the like, because you don't have the experience yet to even get to that point. They have forms here that you just download and you fill out to get yourself on that register. And they just list the auditors. And then if you scroll down the page, you get to the senior auditors. Oh yeah, this is back still at the South Australian now. They're not DIPTI anymore, are they? They're DIT. But they also have these download a Word document, fill it out, email it through, and the instructions are all in there that you'll be able to see. As I mentioned, vrsa.com.au is probably the easiest one. You have to do this extra e-learning module now, but for entry level, it's pretty good. So that's accreditation. Now, there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to make sure I answered Jacob's question, which was around, okay, so I might actually unmute Jacob there. So your question was, you've got your years of experience, but you haven't done the audits yet?
Correct. Yeah. So if you look at that Vic Roads, it actually just says at least 5 years experience in relevant road design, whereas your slide specifies in safety engineering, which is my understanding is 2 different aspects. Where I understand your slide is you need 5 years experience as a road safety auditor, then you can get accreditation for senior. And then on top of that, if you want to be team lead, you require significantly more experience, which makes sense to me. But the way the Vic Road advertises or words it, it's 5 years experience in road design and construction, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So for Victoria, the way it plays out is to become a senior auditor, you need to do a course, and so you're doing this. You need 5 years experience in anything associated with road design, traffic engineering, anything like that. So you need to, you can't be just you can't be a graduate. You've got to have that 5 years in industry, and you have to do 5 audits. Now those 5 audits can all be done in, quick succession, but you need to have had that 5 years experience in industry to get up to that senior status.
Different question also. Have you had any issues with vertical alignments doing road safety audits?
Say that again, sorry.
Have you had any issues with vertical alignment audits? because most of these plans we speak about plan layouts, but I think when we come to the bigger projects, you also need to accommodate your sidelines for your crests.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so definitely vertical alignment challenges, especially as you get into the detailed design and trying to understand that. You want to be like, this is where I often talk about ensuring you link up with somebody who's got that technical design knowledge. If you're not, so others in this group, have varying levels of that technical knowledge. You want to make sure you're there with a designer who understands K values and making sure you've got different, sight distance considerations taken over crests and top of hills and all of that sort of stuff. So absolutely, it's a really important part of it. It's one I suppose we don't focus a lot of attention on, and it's a bit hard to sometimes put a slide up on it exactly, but definitely one you'd be looking for. And if you follow the Austra's Guide prompt lists, you'll see there's a couple of questions around that as well.
Thanks again. See you, Robin. You also have a question.
Sorry, say again.
Someone in the chat popped up a question.
Oh, there's a question in the chat. Sorry, I've got all sorts of things. Victoria, RSA is done in other states or overseas recognized for senior road safety auditor requirements. Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. They just, they may ask you a question. They probably won't, but they may ask you a question about who was the team leader, who was there to mentor you. They just want to make sure you were getting that continuing development, not just that you went out there and did an audit yourself and the like. But yes, they are recognized. Okay. I'm just sorry. Just wanted to show you one more thing, Marissa, before I hand it over to you to be able to show them how to finish. I didn't really talk a lot about New South Wales, but you're certainly eligible to register in New South Wales also. And you go to this website, the Road Safety Register, and then you can see what's required there. So New South Wales has these 3 levels. And entry level 1 is fairly easy to get into. 2 is more like that senior auditor, and 3 is what they talk about as a team or a lead auditor, and you need to do a lead auditor course. So there's an actual extra course. So start your way through that, and then at some point, if you want to step up to a level 3 auditor in New South Wales under their register, you need to do that extra course, which I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 days. Happy to answer any specific questions people have around registration as you go, but I need to just give Marissa a minute to take people through the learning management system, show how to finish the course.
Absolutely. All right, I'll just share my screen also. It's not working. Okay. You can see it now?
Yep.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, back into the LMS. If we scroll down to module 5, we do have another quiz for today's session. If you can complete that one. And of course, if anyone hasn't completed their road safety site visit from last week and submitted their assignment, please do that. You still have another week. It is due next, I believe it's next Friday, the 24th. So you still do have another week to get that one in. So yeah, just a little tip, if I didn't already let you know, we've got little check boxes on the side. That's a bit of an indication of the tasks that need to be completed in order to successfully complete the course. So just ensure each one of them are ticked off. And you do need to reach an 8% and over mark for each of the tasks to successfully complete the course. Once you have completed all the tasks and you've got that tick off, we will send you out any prizes that you won, and we'll send you out a hard copy certificate of your certificate. I just said that. Yeah, a hard copy of your certificate. And yeah, as Ken mentioned, we will, once you've completed the course and you've received your certificate, we will enroll you into the RSA website as the road safety audit to receive your accreditation. That will enable you to complete your e-learning modules. So we'll enroll you in that once you've successfully completed the course though. So you'll have to complete all your tasks and then we can enroll you in that one. And we'll send you some contact details and let you know how that's all administered. We'll upload the recording shortly in a couple of hours, just in case you wanted to watch anything back from today's session. And yeah, I think that covers, yeah, Ken?
I was just going to summarize there. Finish all your quizzes, finish your assignment, do that feedback form, then your certificate is released. And it also comes to us, okay, we can send them the hard copy and exactly. So once you have completed all your tasks, you will need to complete this feedback form, just a couple of minutes. It will take you, and then the certificate will be released. You'll be able to download that, and we'll also send you a hard copy certificate as well. Hopefully that's all clear. If you've got any questions in regards to that, please pop it in the chat. Or of course, just email through to training@safesystemsolutions.com.au as you have been. Happy to answer any questions as we go about completing the course, but also if you have, general questions about some of that stuff, registrations or these sorts of things, feel free to email through. Of course, you've got my contact details. Happy to chat to you further about any road safety, engineering specifics or the like. But I'll just sort of finalize this in the last couple of minutes and say I want to thank Marissa and her team for the background work and getting things organized. That's always a bit of a challenge, lots to do, but you've done a wonderful job there. So thank you. Thanks, Ken. And thank you, Ken, and to Max for facilitating the sessions. So thank you very much. No worries. Yeah, no, I love it. And I want to thank everybody else for taking time out of their extremely busy schedules to come along and spend some time to try to lessen the trauma happening out of there on the roads through utilizing technical knowledge to do that. I know, you're all passionate road safety people beforehand. I want you to sort of step up that to the next level. I feel that when you've got that road safety auditor accreditation, it gives you, that extra responsibility to call out practices you believe have that have deficiencies in them that can be rectified. Be that, you see existing things on the road network that you think are extreme sort of risks or high risks. If you wanted to, if you pointed out every low risk issue to the local government, that's all your life would be, just writing those in. But when you see them and you go, that's a real danger, call it out and make sure people are, putting designs through this road safety audit process. Get out there and tell people that you can assist with their audits. Once you get that certificate and accreditation, let people know. Feel free to, put the certificate online if you're on social media and you want to do that. Happy for you to share that and say that, completed the road safety audit course. Love it if you're on LinkedIn, tag the Safe System Solutions in, or myself, and we'll share it as well. Let's get out there and do lots of audits and improve road safety. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your participation. It's been great. Yeah, really enjoyed this group. Great group. And we look forward to a future road safety course. Have a good day. Get in contact if you need help with your audit. We can do a one-on-one catch-up. Yes, please do. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.